Hello, I'm Robin. I'm a certified financial planner, certified private wealth advisor, wealth manager by trade, and your rich auntie. So, yesterday a friend sent me an article and it was featuring Susie Orman. I'm a huge fan of Susie Orman. I remember being a teenager watching her show on NBC, and she was one of the inspirations for me to become a wealth manager. Well, she said something really interesting, and essentially she said unless a person has $5 to $10 million saved, you can't consider early retirement. And she's right. About 2 weeks ago, I did a video that $1 million in a traditional IRA leads to a broke retirement. And there was a lot of pushback and feedback on that comment and on my video. But ultimately, Susie Orman and what she's saying is correct, and it vindicates my point that $1 million in a traditional 401k or IRA isn't nearly enough to retire. So, who has $5 million saved for retirement? If we look exclusively at retirement accounts, 1/10 of 1% of retirement savers have that much money in a retirement account. And there's a little bit of an asterisk there, but basically that's 1 of 1,000 people. And that's for a multitude of reasons. A, it's incredibly hard. You have to work a very long time to save up $5 million in a retirement account. And B, the second answer to that is if you have that much net worth, the 401k or IRA just doesn't really make sense for you anymore. So probably somewhere between 1 and 5 million, the person has stopped saving in the retirement account and is using other assets to produce income for retirement. But back to what Susie Orman said, if you want to consider early retirement, 5 to 10 million is what you need in your accounts. She's absolutely right. And I've dealt with situations like this. To give you an example, I met a young woman. She was in her mid 30s. She worked as an educator, lived in California, Bay Area. She received a significant inheritance, about 2.5 million from a grandparent. And she was shopping for financial advisors, and she was going around talking to each financial advisor, asking them if she could retire. I looked at her expenses, I looked at her cost of living, I looked at her lifestyle, and I was the only financial advisor to really tell her the truth. She could not retire at 35 with 2.5 million. She was going to run out of money. It was probably going to happen sometime in her mid to late 60s. And then she was going to be faced with going back and trying to resume her career as an educator when she's almost 60 years old. She needed to continue working at least another decade to 15 years so that she could set herself up for a successful retirement. It was a long conversation, and she didn't like what I had to say. And that was okay. As a financial advisor and wealth manager, I don't get anywhere with lying to people about their financial situation. I could have lied to her, as other financial advisors obviously saw fit to shade the truth with her, and told her, oh yeah, we can go ahead and make that work. You can go ahead and retire out. Let me manage your money. But that would be dishonest, and it would be really doing a serious disservice to this young woman who's going to be smacked in the head with the truth at a very inconvenient time in life, when either she doesn't want to go back to work when she's 57, 58, 59, 60, or she can't go back to work. Her licenses are out of date. Her credentials are no longer active to teach. She may have health issues. She may be so long out of the classroom that she cannot find gainful employment. I've done the numbers before. I've run the projections. I've talked to people in the FIRE movement. I often tell people with 2.5, even 3 million, if you're in your 30s, you really should not be retiring out. You're not going to be able to handle the next 60 years of life plus emergencies that come up in life on, 2.5 to $3 million. Now, once you get to 5 million, things change. If we go back to the 4% rule, 4% of 5 million is $200,000 a year. They can live on $200,000 a year. They could also handle emergencies that come up and be able to handle come what may. So once I see $5-10 million, it's like, okay, yeah, I think this person can survive. Now, getting more into the 4% rule. If you're 70, the 4% rule works. If you're 50, it's more like 3.5%. Under 50, it's more like 3%. Why does that 4% rule shift? And there's actually research about this. Well, 2022 was an excellent example where we had the double whammy of a trash market plus inflation. We rarely see that combination come in together, but it came in together in 2022 and it flatlined a lot of people's retirement aspirations who wanted to retire in the next 1 to 3 years. And so, the 4% rule gets a bit shaky because let's say you're 35, you have another 55 years of life. Odds are we're going to have another 2022 sometime in the future. Now, if you're 85 and you have a life expectancy of 5 to 10 years, we may not see another 2022 during that time. So it has to do with inflation, it has to do with market performance, and it has to do with your current age. But early retirement is always a really, really hard number to pull off. Now, who can retire early? I have helped some clients retire early, and when I say early, I'm talking about 55. That's early retirement. I'm not talking about the 30-year-olds, 55-year-olds. They have an incredible pension. They've saved up money in their 403b, 457, 401k plan. They have an inheritance. They have a very lean lifestyle. They're planning to leave the U.S. They're not going to do their retirement here. They're planning to go to Mexico, or they're going to Panama, or they're going to a much lower cost of living area where they can live on a fraction of what they can live on in the San Francisco Bay Area. They have a home. It's paid off. They only have property tax, maintenance, and insurance, and those are all manageable. So it's typically people in very select circumstances that can pull off an early retirement. And when I say early retirement, I mean retirement at 55. Now, who can pull off an early retirement? Maybe in their 30s. They're usually adherents of the FIRE movement. They've had a job where they've had significant earnings. They have equity stake in a company. They've received an inheritance. I have had a lotto winner. That is exceptionally rare, and that is a completely different universe of factors that come in. Oftentimes, if they're adherents of the FIRE movement, are lifelong people who are willing to make very frugal choices in life. And I do have some clients who are adherents of the FIRE movement, and they live in a low cost of living state. They live in a modest home. They'll drive cars until it is no longer safe to drive that car, 15, 20 years. They are frugal with their money, and they make their dollar stretch. And they know how to whip that money. They know how to save. They know how to invest. And so they really put a lot of effort in their identity into frugal living, and they're able to save 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 million when they're relatively young. And many times when I have conversations with adherents of the FIRE movement and they're relatively young and they want to leave the workforce, even though they can, the numbers, the math, they can leave the workforce. They have enough money to do so. They often don't want to do it because they put a lot into their careers. Maybe, they got a master's degree or a PhD or an MD or a law degree, and they're doing well in their careers and they really like it. But they just want to know if come what may, they could walk out the door and have no regrets. So it's very rare that someone who is 33 is really chomping at the bit to leave their career behind. They just want to know that they have enough to maintain themselves should they want to leave their career. And I do currently have clients who are in that situation, and it's always a joy to speak to them and to manage their finances because they're very sharp. They live within their means, and they're willing to do what I tell them. You'd be surprised how many people hire me as a financial advisor and then don't listen or follow the advice that I give them. So, early retirement, and let me talk about the future of retirement and what I see shaping up as a wealth manager. I think for the next generation, and that includes me, which is Gen X, Millennial, Gen Zers, retirement is going to become a concept for the rich. And that's currently what's shaping up. Meaning, if you can work until 65 and you retired, you've had a good job, you've had a good career, you have 7-figure amount set aside in an IRA, a 401k, you have a pension, you have an inheritance, you had equity stake in the business, you had something going on to really set you up earlier in your life for retirement in your 60s, which is not even an early retirement. Right now, it's a standard retirement. Who are not going to be able to retire in their 60s? Middle class and poor people. Why is that the case? Pensions are basically non existent. Social Security is running into trouble, so you're not going to be able to rely on Social Security. Another factor is that many of the poor, working class, and middle class simply cannot save enough in their 401k to make retirement work. So as of 2024, you can save up to $23,000 if you're under age 50. You can save a little bit more if you're over age 50. But who the hell can do that? Who can put away $2,000 a month and not miss it into their retirement accounts? The vast majority of Americans can't do that and will never be able to do that. So personally, what I see shaping up in sitting in the chair and working with many clients is, unless you have some really fortuitous life circumstances, once again, an inheritance, equity stake in a company that you're selling, next week's Powerball number, a really good paying job with a really good pension system, retirement is going to become a thing of the past. And that is absolutely terrifying. It's part of the American dream that we all work hard, we work a career, and that we're promised a retirement. I see that changing, and I see it changing rapidly. That's something I want to talk more about, what I see as a wealth manager, and exactly how can we fix this. So if you like this video, please go check out that article by Susie Orman and hear her take on it. 5 to 10 million is the magic number for early retirement. I think you'll enjoy it. But if you like this video, please like, please share, and please subscribe.